Finding Light in the Shadows, the unlikely love story of Dylan Wang and Bai Lu, in the heart of a misty mountain valley, where the air smells of pine and the world feels both vast and intimate. Two strangers arrive at a grief retreat seeking solace. Dylan Wang, a brooding artist with a penchant for sketching the world's pain, and Bai Lu, a sharp-witted journalist whose words once danced but now carried the weight of loss, were worlds apart. Yet fate, or perhaps something more, had plans to weave their stories together. What began as a clash of personalities in the quiet of a retreat became a journey of healing, rediscovery, and a love neither saw coming. The retreat, a haven for broken, nestled in the serene embrace of the Blue Ridge Mountains. The solace retreat promised a week of healing for those grappling with grief. The program was simple but profound: guided meditations, group therapy, nature walks, and moments of solitude to process loss. Dylan Wang, 29, arrived with a sketchbook tucked under his arm, his dark eyes scanning the rustic lodge with a mix of skepticism and desperation. His younger sister, May, had passed away 2 years prior in a car accident, leaving a void that his art could no longer fill. Bai Lu, 27, stepped off the shuttle with a notebook in hand, her sharp gaze softened by exhaustion. She'd lost her fiancé, Chun, to a sudden illness a year ago, and her once vibrant columns had turned into hollow recitations of facts. She'd signed up for the retreat on a whim, hoping to find the spark she'd lost, or at least a way to sleep through the night without nightmares. The retreat's director, a gentle woman named Dr. Lin, welcomed the small group of 10 with a warm smile. "This is a place to feel, to confront, and to heal," she said. "You're here because you're ready to live again." Dylan rolled his eyes, doodling a jagged line in his sketchbook. Bai Lu scribbled a sarcastic note. "Live again? Easier said than done." The clash, sparks of friction. Their first encounter was anything but serendipitous. During the opening group session, participants were asked to share a memory of their loved one. Dylan, slouched in his chair, muttered about May's love for stargazing, his voice low and guarded. Bai Lu, seated across the circle, spoke a Chen's infectious laugh, her words precise but clipped, as if holding back a flood. When Dylan accidentally knocked over her water bottle while reaching for a sketchbook, she snapped, "Watch it, Picasso." "Relax, Lois Lane," he shot back, his tone dry. The group tensed, but Dr. Lin diffused a moment with a gentle redirection. Still, the air between them crackled with irritation. Over the next 2 days, their interactions were a series of petty jabs. Bai Lu called Dylan's brooding performative. He dubbed her sharp tongue a defense mechanism. They were oil and water, each convinced the other was the problem. Yet, beneath the barbs, there was an unspoken recognition. Both carried their grief like armor, and neither could deny the other's pain mirrored their own. It was during a mandatory partner exercise, a trust walk through the forest, that the first crack in their defenses appeared. The turning point, a walk in the woods. The trust walk required one partner to be blindfolded, while the other guided them through the uneven terrain. Dylan, blindfolded, grumbled as Bai Lu took his arm. "Don't lead me into a tree," he muttered. "Don't tempt me," she replied, but her voice held a hint of amusement. As they navigated the path, her instructions were clear and steady. "Step up, root ahead. Turn left, there's a dip." For the first time, Dylan noticed the warmth in her tone, the care beneath her sarcasm. When it was her turn to be blindfolded, she hesitated, her fingers tightening on his arm. "I don't like not seeing," she admitted quietly. "I've got you," Dylan said, surprising himself at the sincerity. He guided her gently, his voice a low anchor in the rustling forest. By the time they returned to the lodge, something had shifted. The hostility had softened, replaced by a tentative curiosity. That evening, during a bonfire, the group was asked to write a letter to their lost loved one, to be burned in the flames as a release. Dylan and Bai Lu found themselves side by side, staring into the fire. "What did you write?" Bai Lu asked, her voice softer than usual. Dylan hesitated, then handed her his letter. It was a sketch, a night sky filled with stars, May's favorite constellation at the center. "I told her I'm trying," he said, "but it's hard to see the stars without her." Bai Lu nodded, her eyes glistening. She didn't share her letter, but she leaned closer, her shoulder brushing his. Chun loved bonfires, she said. He'd say they remind us we're alive. For the first time, they sat in silence that wasn't charged with tension, the crackle of the fire filling the space between them, the unraveling, finding joy in small moments. Over the next few days, the retreat's rhythm began to work its magic. Group sessions peeled back layers of grief, and nature walks forced them to confront the beauty of a world that kept turning. Dylan and Bai Lu were paired often, whether by chance or Dr. Lin's subtle orchestration. They began to talk, not just about loss, but about who they were before it. Dylan shared stories of painting murals with May, how her laughter could light up a room. Bai Lu spoke of her travels with Chun, how his curiosity about the world had inspired her writing. One afternoon, during a pottery workshop, Dylan's attempt at a vase collapsed into a lopsided mess. Bai Lu laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound that made Dylan pause. "What?" she asked, catching a stare. "You should do that more," he said. "Laugh." She rolled her eyes but didn't snap back. Instead, she helped him reshape the clay, their hands brushing as they worked. It was a small moment, but it felt like a spark of something new. By the 5th day, they were seeking each other out. They hiked together, Dylan sketching the views while Bai Lu jotted down thoughts for a story she hadn't yet dared to write. They discovered shared quirks, a love for spicy street food, a hatred for early mornings, a secret fondness for cheesy rom-coms. One night, during a stargazing session, Dylan pointed out May's constellation. Bai Lu, lying beside him on the grass, whispered, "Chim would have loved this." They didn't need to say more. The shared silence was enough. The epiphany, a reason beyond chance. On the final night, the retreat culminated in a lantern ceremony. Each participant lit a paper lantern, releasing it into the sky with a wish for their future. As Dylan and Bai Lu prepared their lanterns, they exchanged a glance. "What's your wish?" she asked. He looked at her, his usual guarded expression softening. "To keep finding reasons to live," he said. "You?" She smiled a little shyly. "To write again, and maybe to not do it alone." As their lanterns floated upward, joining a constellation of glowing lights, Dylan took her hand. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it felt monumental. In that moment, they both sensed something bigger at play. May's love for stars, Chen's passion for life. Had their lost one somehow guided them here? To this moment to each other? The next morning, as they packed to leave, Bai Lu hesitated by the shuttle. "What now?" she asked, her voice laced with hope and fear. Dylan, usually so reserved, surprised her with a grin. "Coffee." In the afterglow of their transformative week at the Solace Retreat, Dylan Wang and Bai Lu stepped back into the world with cautious hope. Their unlikely connection, forged in the crucible of grief over lost loved ones, May and Chun, had sparked something neither expected, a chance to rediscover joy. But as they navigated life beyond the misty Blue Ridge Mountains, their story deepened, weaving new moments of healing, love, and the enduring presence of those they'd lost. This is a continuation of their journey, where small gestures and vibrant scenes illuminate the path from grief to a shared future. Rekindling light in the city. Back in the bustling city, Dylan and Bai Lu faced a challenge of translating their retreat's magic into everyday life. Their first date was at a hole-in-the-wall noodle shop, its neon sign flickering above a graffiti street door. Inside, the air was thick with chilly oil and laughter. Dylan, in a rare moment of playfulness, challenged Bai Lu to a spice-eating contest. "You're going down, Lois Lane," he teased, slurping a fiery noodle. Bai Lu, her eyes watering but her grin defiant, matched him bite for bite. "Picasso, you're sweating already," she shot back, fanning her mouth. The other patrons cheered, and for a moment, the weight of their losses lifted. As they stumbled out, faces flushed and laughing, Dylan sketched her on a napkin, a radiant figure with chilly red lips under a starry sky. "For May," he said softly, tucking it into her hand. Bai Lu's heart skipped. It was the first time she saw Chen's warmth in someone else's eyes. Their dates became a tapestry of small, vivid moments. One rainy evening, they ducked into a second-hand bookstore, shaking off droplets like giddy kids. Bai Lu found a worn copy of The Alchemist, Chen's favorite, and read a passage aloud. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Dylan, flipping through an art book, glanced up. Think May and Chin conspire to get us here? He asked, half joking. Bai Lu's smile was answer enough. They left with a book and a shared umbrella, their shoulders brushing as the city blurred around them, healing through art and words. Dylan's studio became their sanctuary. Once a dim space filled with monochromatic sketches of May's absence, it now burst with color. One night, Bai Lu watched him paint a mural, a swirling galaxy with May's constellation at its heart, but now dotted with vibrant hues inspired by their time together. "You're in this," he admitted, pointing to a streak of gold. "You're the light I didn't see coming." Bai Lu, usually quick with a quip, was speechless. She kissed him instead, paint smudging her cheek, and they laughed until the room felt alive with May's spirit. Bai Lu, meanwhile, found her voice again. Her first column since Chen's death was a raw, 800-word piece titled, "The Stars We Carry." She wrote of grief's weight, of finding Dylan in the retreat's quiet, and of how love could bloom in loss's shadow. Published online, it went viral, with thousands sharing their own stories of healing. Readers on X called it a love letter to the brokenhearted, and one post read, "Bai Lu's words make you feel seen like grief isn't the end." Dylan framed the article, hanging it beside his mural. Chin would be proud, he told her, and she cried for first time without shame. Challenges and constellations. Their path wasn't without stumbles. Grief, like an uninvited guest, crept in during quiet moments. One night, Bai Lu woke from a nightmare about Chun, her breasts ragged. Dylan, sleeping over, pulled her close, whispering, "Tell me about him." She spoke of Chen's goofy dance moves, his obsession with street food, and the ring she still wore on a chain. Dylan listened, sketching as she talked, a silhouette of Chun dancing under stars. "He's still with you," Dylan said, handing her the sketch. "And that's okay." It was a moment of grace, their love strong enough to hold space for their pasts. Dylan, too, had his struggles. On May's birthday, he withdrew, sketching alone in his studio. Bai Lu found him surrounded by crumpled paper, his hands smudged with charcoal. Instead of pushing, she sat beside him, pulling out her notebook. "Write her a letter," she suggested. Together, they crafted a message to May, Dylan's words raw and halting, Bai Lu's steady and poetic. They burned it in a small backyard fire pit, watching the smoke curl skyward. "She sees us," Bai Lu whispered, and Dylan nodded, his hand finding hers. A return to solace. A year after the retreat, Dylan and Bai Lu returned to Solace as volunteers, eager to give back. The mountain air felt like home, the lodge a beacon of their beginning. They led a trust walk, guiding new participants through the forest where their own walls had crumbled. One evening, during the lantern ceremony, they watched a young woman release her lantern, tears streaming as she whispered to her lost brother. Dylan squeezed Bai Lu's hand, remembering May. Bai Lu leaned into him, thinking of Chun. "They're still guiding us," she said, and he nodded, the stars above mirroring the lantern's glow. After the ceremony, they hiked to their old stargazing spot, a blanket spread on the grass. Dylan pulled out his sketchbook, now filled with images of their life together. Noodle shops, rainy bookstores, their fire pit nights. Bai Lu handed him a draft of her next column, Constellations of Us, about how love and loss intertwine. "You're my co-author," she teased, nudging him. He grinned, sketching her under the stars, her laughter a constellation of its own, a future lit by stars. As they stood on the mountain, the world felt both vast and intimate, just as it had a year ago. Dylan and Bai Lu didn't have all the answers. Grief would always be part of their story, but they had each other. Their love, born in the quiet of a retreat, had grown into a vibrant force, colored by May's stars and Chen's warmth. They were proof that the universe, in its mysterious ways, could turn strangers into soulmates, guiding them through loss to a life rekindled. Back in the city, they planned their next chapter, a joint project blending Dylan's art and Bai Lu's words, a book about grief, love, and the beauty of carrying the stars. As they worked, they'd catch each other's eye, smiling at the unspoken truth. May and Chun were still there, in every brushstroke, every sentence, cheering them on.